Hello, hi everybody. This is Michelle with Vintage Revival Design Co. Thank you for joining me today. We are live on the Vintage Revival page and I believe on YouTube for the first time. So if you're new here, welcome and please say hello. Today we're going to be working on turning just a plain cabinet door that I picked up at Habitat Restore, and we're going to transform it into a holiday decor piece. So I'm going to just switch this over right here, and we'll see that you can get in the camera really well. We'll do that. Okay. This was a plain MDF board. It has two sides. It has a recessed side and a raised panel side. I decided to work with this side because I like that it has like a frame to it. And so the first thing that I want to do, it's very plain right now. I started by base coating this in two coats of a black paint, and then I did an off-white on top of it. For this area in here, I want to, before we start stamping, I want to give it kind of an aged paper effect. And so to do that, I'm going to be using one of my favorite little tools, which is plastic wrap. And I'm going to go ahead and get some watered down paint. I've just mixed some paint in here. I'm actually going to stir this up a little bit more. And you can see that it's a little bit darker. And I've got a lot of water in it because we're going to create kind of a wash in this. If you're here, please say hello. I'm hoping that I can see comments given that we're in two places, but I'll do my best. And if I miss your comment, then we will go back and I will address any comments or questions that you may have after this is over. I'm experimenting with something. So, all right. So I have my watered down paint, and it, like I said, it's very watery. And I am just going to be randomly dabbing this in. I just want to give this some depth. I don't just want it to be a plain white background. We're going to be doing a lot of things to this piece. We won't get through them all today, but we will get the stamping done for sure. Okay, so this is just a watered down paint. I'm doing it randomly. I see some people here. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Amy. Hi, Joyce. Hi, Jean. Thank you so much for saying hello. So I like to create backgrounds in a variety of ways. This is just one way. I'm going to just sit that paper on there. I could let it dry as is, but it would have some peaks and valleys. So I'm going to lay my plastic wrap down, and I'm just going to be picking it up, pressing down. Plastic wrap is your friend when you're painting, that's for sure. Okay. When this dries, it's going to give it some texture behind it. Already it's separating itself from the frame. The frame is going to be something very different by the time we're done, and we will probably do that tomorrow. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I go in all of the areas. I'll have some lighter spaces, some darker spaces. I'm sorry, I have a throat lozenge in my mouth. So, okay, let's go ahead, and I just want a little more here. Just a little bit on the edges. The Habitat Restore, if you have one, I hope you have one near you. It is my favorite place to pick up cabinet doors. And there's just so many things that you can do with them. Okay, so we have kind of a, just kind of a, I like to call it an aged paper effect. So we'll just kind of, call it that. How's that? All right. So I'm just going to dry this, and then we'll get on to the next step. I'm using a little Heat It tool by Ranger. I love it. It is quiet. and hot, hot, hot. So this takes just a little bit. It's very, very wet because it has so much water in it. California, we have Utah. I know Jean's in Virginia. Joyce, remind me where you're from. And Dawn, remind me where you're from, please. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I shared a background that you can do with a brayer. And then this is just another really easy technique. We're actually going to be embossing today. And I'm pretty excited to show you that. I'm just going to use a paper towel to pick up any extra wetness. It's not going to affect my background at all. It's just going to pick up any extra moisture so that we can continue working. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this because if I have any areas, we can always touch that up. Hi, Kathy, how are you? From around the corner, yes, and Vermont. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. Okay, so now that we have our background ready to go, I'm going to be working with a variety of stamps today. I pulled out several. We're going to do a Joy to the World sign, and I really thought about that when I saw this beautiful angel from the Heavenly set that just came out by Iron Orchid Designs. It is this set here. Let's see if you can see. It has all these beautiful images here and these two beautiful angels with trumpets. And I thought, you know, the angels would be trumpeting joy. And so I thought Joy to the World. And there you go. It just kind of went from there. So in addition to the angel from the Heavenly stamp set, I'm going to be using two different typography stamp sets. Well, three actually, from Iron Orchid Designs, just to change up the text a little bit. I'm going to be using typesetting. I'm going to be using swoosh, which is more of a cursive font. And then I'm going to be using letterpress, which are these smaller little stamps like this. I think they're, gosh, maybe about an inch, inch and a half. And so these are great for like filler words and things like that. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of get an idea of how I want to lay out my stamps. And I really did this ahead of time, but I'm going to do it here for you. And so I'm just going to kind of get an idea of the placement of my stamps. Some of these are much easier to add than others. And I'm going to go, I'll just go, let's see if I can remember how to spell. We're going to be in good shape, that's for sure. All right. And then we'll go world. I'm just going to get them kind of in the general area that they're going to go. I thought joy would be basically coming from the trumpet of the angel. And then to the world in a different font would be down here. So this is just kind of the general idea of how we're going to do that. Do you see? All right. So I thought about adding the other angel over here, but there really isn't enough room if I want to use this font. And I did because I just thought, you know, it would go well with the angel and the theme and all of that. So I did have a thin mount. I'll figure it out. So when I have my stamps in the general area, and I thought I would do, we're going to need another T here. So I'm going to kind of space this out a little bit, but I think this is the general way that I want to go. Okay. And let's see, we've got a little bit off here. So I kind of want to go, I know that we're a little, this is going to overlap, and we're going to be using some metallic pigments here. Okay. So I just want to get a general idea I thought I would end up probably kind of doing a or a right justification on the top ones, and then letting the world kind of balance it out a little bit. So this is kind of where we're at. So what we're going to do is we're going to be embossing these. And to do that, I'm going to be using an embossing stamp pad. This is by Versamark. They call it a watermark stamp, but it actually is something that you want to use. It allows your embossing powder to stick to it. There is gold embossing powder, but because I'm going to want to paint in some of the words, and I guess I could use that because they're all solid. So let me grab that and we'll just use that. It'll show up a lot easier. So we'll just use the gold, okay? I hope this is the gold. All right, so this is a gold embossing powder. And how you use this is you stamp with your embossing ink, and then we're going to add embossing powder to that and heat set it. We're going to do these one at a time because it can dry pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and start with the angel. I'm going to go ahead and move these out of the way. We'll be shuffling stamps around quite a bit, but let's go ahead and start with this angel. I don't have my thin mount, so I'm just going to pick it up with this acetate sheet, and it should stick. Let's see if it does. It does. Okay, so I'm going to turn that upside down, and with my Versamark ink, it's clear. I'm going to go ahead and stamp. Go ahead and load up my stamp with the Versamark ink. And again, you could use, I think they call them embossing ink powders. So it doesn't, or an embossing ink pad. So it doesn't have to be a Versamark brand at all. So I'm going to come right about here. I'm going to commit. I'm going to place it down using my fingers. I'm going to get some good pressure because I want that embossing ink to stick. We're going to be making a little bit of a mess here. All right, now I can barely see this except for looking from the side, but I'm going to take this little spoon that I have, and I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder over my image where I think it goes. And it's only going to stick where I have the Versamark ink. So you don't have to worry that it's going to go all over the place. I'm getting way more than I need on here, but we'll be okay. I'll be able to pick that up. So another thing that you can do, I'm going to come down here a little bit just to make sure. Another thing that you can do is, I'm going to go ahead and set these aside, is you can just kind of shuffle a little bit, and you can kind of take a brush and lightly go over your image and make sure that we got everything. Okay, I'm just going to kind of come in here. Let me move my stamps. It's a little trickier when you're not on paper, but let's go ahead and we're going to just shuffle this. Okay, and then what we're going to do, it gets really messy. I'm turning this down because usually I'm working on paper, but I'm going to tamp this. Okay, and then you can see where this is sticking to it. I'm going to take a brush and kind of brush this out a little bit. This is messy on a sign for sure. It's much easier where there is no border to get in your way. But it should only emboss where there's sticky stuff. So I'm just going to brush some of this out of the way. Brush it down here. And hopefully I didn't ruin her wing. So let's see how we do. Hopefully this won't be too messy. I'll blow a little bit. All right, let's see how we do, okay? So when you apply the heat to it, This I'm using an embossing gun. It'll start to get shiny when it embosses. Hi, Lori. I'm using the gold, and you're going to see it's going to start to turn really shiny gold when it heat sets. So it looks bronze when it goes in, or when it goes on, and then it turns this really beautiful gold color. And that's how you know that it's setting. And you just want to keep your embossing gun moving. So can you see how it's changing color? And we're getting that really, really bright, beautiful, beautiful gold color. Oops, that was a lot. I'm going to have embossing powder all over my craft room today. So it's going to be a mess, but that's okay. Okay, so now you can see that it's turned this really, really beautiful metallic shiny gold, if you can see that. Okay, and now what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and brush this out of the way. We're going to go ahead and use as much of this that's already on the cabinet as we can, and it's going to be a little tricky. Typically what I do is I would, if I've got a flat piece of paper, I pour it into something like this, and it has this spout on the end. So I pour the extra powder into here, and then I'm able to just put the powder back that hasn't been used into my container. But because I have this barrier here, it's a little trickier. But we're just going to work with it and see how we do. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to set the angel aside because we are done with her or him. I can't tell, but it's beautiful. The angel is beautiful. And let's look at where we want to put our joy. I want that to be coming from the trumpet for sure. Okay. So I am going to, I think we're going to come here. I want to get it somewhat straight. So I may use, I'm going to stand up a little bit and see if I can get these a little bit straighter so it doesn't drive me nuts. Okay, so I think that's about good. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. And this one we can do the entire word at one time. And then we're going to place this where we want it. You go right here. Okay. I just felt like it was the perfect expression for the angel, or maybe like, hark the herald angels sing, or, I thought I'll do one. I have one where I have the printed sheet music, and I thought I would use the angels on that. Okay. So now that that's done, I can see a little bit. I'm going to just kind of brush this embossing powder over the area. Get it to stick. I didn't get a lot of embossing powder right there, so let me see if I can take a brush. get a little on here on my brush and see if I can get it in there. That helped. It might be a little distressed. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it upside, turn it over a little bit so we can get that embossing powder to come down. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can clean this up a little bit before I emboss it. I do not mind if that little Y is a little distressed. That doesn't bother me. Well, maybe it does. So hold on. I'm going to take a little bit of a brush and just dab some of the Versamark ink in there. I didn't do that very well. I had a re-inker. If you have a re-inker for the Versamark, that can work really well too. But let's see if we can go in here. Okay. And now I think I can get some. Just have to play with it a little bit. All right. Okay. So that filled in pretty well. And now what I want to do is I just want to come in here and clean this up with another brush. You're pretty good to go until you heat set it, and then you're kind of stuck. So if you need to do a little cleanup before you heat set it, you can do that. So it can be a little fussy, but I think it's absolutely worth it. I'm lightly blowing here. Okay, just cleaning up a little bit with my brush. Okay, and then let's brush some of this out of the way, and we'll go ahead and we'll heat set this. I'm lightly doing this. Okay, so now we'll do the magic sauce, right? Okay. You can always come in with a gold paint or a shadow color or something like that and clean up your lettering, that's fine. It has a very gold foil appearance, which I think is really, really pretty. It's a fairly quick process. Okay, and now we have the joy done. So you get the gist of how this is, how this happens. And as I said, it can be just a little tedious when you're working on a board with a border and you have some constraints. But other than that, it does pretty well. I'm going to pick up some of that and get my lid back on that while we work on the next one. I think I'm going to do the world first, and then I'll decide where I want those small middle pieces. I'm going to go ahead and pull this powder out of the way so I can get that in there. If I have dust or something on my board, it can stick to my stamp and then the powder might not stick. So let's go ahead and just wipe back some of this, okay? So the next letters that we're going to use, we're going to go ahead and do the world. I'm going to lay this out first because each of these will be done individually. This is the swoosh stamp, and it's actually meant to be joined. So it's not where you do them, separate here. Let's see if I can pull this up so you can see. So it's more where it they overlap a little bit, much, you know, much like a cursive letter. So this would probably come here like this. Then we've got our L like this, and then we would have our D like this. Okay, so I actually think I'm going to start with the D. I kind of like the spacing that I have. So I'll pull these off and we'll do the D. It's just a very different letter stamp, and how you apply it is just a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this up, but before I do, I want to go ahead and give myself a little marker. So I'm going to go ahead and set, I've got a little X-Acto knife here. So I'm going to give myself a place setter so I know where I wanted to place that. So I'll go ahead and ink this up. Make sure I get it good and juicy. And I want to go ahead and line that up. Just put that down and move that out of the way. Okay. And then we'll brush this around, just kind of shake it, make sure it's good and covered, and then we will shake it again to get that off. I don't want to knock off my, I don't want to knock it off from my, I'm just blowing with my hands here so that I don't clean that up a little bit. Okay, and now we are going to get this one out. Have you embossed? Hi, Callie, how are you? Have you embossed? Who here has embossed on your projects? And if you have, do you have a favorite embossing pad? That would be really good to know. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this D. I like to keep it moving so it doesn't bubble up my paint. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to join a letter, and then we will, so no embossing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to join a letter, and then if you want to see the whole world word done tonight, you can let me know. Otherwise, I could be losing you, and you kind of get the gist of how we emboss, and that is going to be what I finish tonight, is all of the embossing. Tomorrow we'll come back on and add the next steps to this, and we will be doing molds on the frame and kind of like an antique gilded frame, that type of thing. And so you know, let me know if you want to. We can do the whole word, and if not, I'll continue on my own and show you what it looks like tomorrow when I come back and continue the project. But you can let me know. But I do want to show you how to join these cursive letters. So again, I don't want any powder sticking here. So we're going to use the L. And the way that you do this is you're going to kind of line it up. It's going to overlap, actually. Okay. And it's helpful to see where your L, your R is going to go, but we're just going to go like this. So it's actually going to overlap. And when we actually add the gilding, you're barely going to be able to see that. So let's see what we've got. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. And that way you can see how it looks when it's joined. Okay, I'm going to, this one isn't sticking quite as well. The embossing powder that I'm using is by Ranger, and it's their gold. So it looks very bronzy when it arrives in the package. But so what you're going to do is you're just going to join those two letters. So I want that L to overlap the D. Push down. It may even pick up some of my gilding, but we'll just be adding to it again. Okay, so I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to shake my powder this way and see if I can't get that. Okay. We're just going to shift that powder up and over. And I'll be sure to show you embossing on a project that doesn't have a barrier to it so that you can see how much easier. I don't want this to scare you from embossing. Okay, just because it's a little messy. All right, so I'm going to shake some of that off. I'm going to clean up this little area here, just in case there's any embossing pad. I need a little bit more here. Okay. And I'm going to just blow a little bit, and then we'll just emboss this one. And you'll see how you can see where it's darker here, where it's overlapping. But let's see if I can get you to see, if as I emboss it, how that just will blend in. And so you can see how the L now is just joined to the D, and you can't tell where one started and where one stopped. So that is the trick, is just to do the swoosh letters kind of one at a time so that you can overlap them. Okay, so let me see where you're at, see what comments we have, and I can continue this part. And let's see. We have embossing virgins, so that's really funny. I think that's hysterical. And let's see. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is, yeah, it is beautiful and seamless, Sherry. It is, when you do them one at a time, it's, oh, I didn't get this little part of the D, so hold on one second. Okay. And so when you get that little part of the D, I've got a little embossing here. I can pick that up or paint over it, you know, where it didn't quite clean up. So that's how you want to do that, is you just want to overlap them. So I am going to go ahead and finish this embossing now that you know how it's done. And then tomorrow when I come back, you'll get to see it all embossed, and we will start working on the next steps of this. So we're going to be working with the molds. I think I'm going to be using the new molds from Holly Lane, but I haven't decided yet. I'm going to look at some others too and see what we've got. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. Yes, so that's why I didn't do the entire word, Sherry. I just wanted to show you that we're going to be embossing and then how to do it. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish it up. And tomorrow you'll get to see it all embossed and we'll go on to the next steps. Okay. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you have any questions or you're watching this on replay, just drop them in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you with answers. I hope you have a great night. Thanks again for being here. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, friend. And I'll see you all soon. Thanks so much, everybody. Good night.